Good morning, Wonder Women of the world. Welcome to 1 Million Women to Tech. Today is week 7, day 1, Advanced JavaScript. In today's teaser/update, I wanted to first show you what we will go through today in the class. Second, to tell you about the volunteer applications opening and request some of those that are live watching to help me to test out the flow, because it needs to be tested before we send the message to about 1,100 people pre-register their interest to volunteer. So that's the volunteer applications. And number 3, I wanted to share with you a update on the certifications and how it's going to work. There are 2 pieces of news. One is that as a charity and nonprofit, we qualified for GitHub Classroom. And I will show you the week 1 assignment that we are testing. And again, I will ask for a few mentors and a few Gold and VIP members to help us test out the workflow. I will also share a code review template or suggestion so that the mentors understand what it is that we are trying to achieve, because often the students are not yet given or taught the most advanced solutions. Instead, they are requested to use whatever was covered in that day's lesson. And so it's important for the mentors to understand that the goal of the code review is encouragement and to allow the students to use and reuse that which they have learned. Okay, so let's get started. Great to see you, everybody. Annie KTK, hi Frico. Hello, that's new. Kasia W, Anna Shustic, hi. Mara Catalina, welcome back. Sara Al-Khatib, great to see you. Virginia Balsero, oh my gosh, Virginia is here. Rox Arden and Consuela Carrington, hello. Let's do the walkthrough, and I want to show you something that Virginia made that just blew my mind. I saw it in the Discord channel. Today, let's get started. So in the advanced JavaScript, we will take a look at setting up shop. This class is advanced, so I'm just assuming that you can troubleshoot yourself. We'll be using Node.js NPM and Standard.js, which is a JavaScript style guide, linter, and formatter. So if you're not familiar with linting, it's an automatic way to enforce indentations, opening, closing brackets, and more, enforcing the language syntax. Today it will be all about functions. Everything we'll talk about will be about functions. So we'll start with a very basic introduction, because I promised the beginners that we'll actually run through the basics of JavaScript functions. And after that, I'm going to jump straight into the advanced work. So we'll talk about scope, the parameters versus the arguments. We'll talk about how in JavaScript functions are objects and how anonymous functions work, as well as hoisting and closures. If we have time, we can do even more, but I thought this is quite a lot for 1 hour. The code review, I think it will do after the volunteering. So before I open the volunteer announcements, I would like to show you something that one of our volunteers made based on the exercises last week. So just to give a little brain teaser and also an interview practice question for all of you, I had a numerical question for you that asked, how many minutes does the moon travel in 1 day? How many minutes does the moon travel in 1 day? And this was a brain teaser because, of course, how do you understand minutes in a day? It's really kind of a strange thing. But we talked through it and we discussed. It's actually 2 ratios. It's just calculating 2 ratios. And it's the ratio of the Earth's speed and the ratio of the moon's speed. And so if it's midnight and I look up and I see the moon, if the Earth turns around and it's midnight again, then actually the moon has moved. And the question is, how many more minutes does it take for the Earth to catch up so that, again, the moon is exactly above me? And I'd like to show you, Virginia Balsero got inspired and created something amazing that she shared with us inside our official Discord server. Da 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 da. Can I have some drum roll, please? Let me see if I can bring it up so that her name is shown while we're doing this. Virginia is a participant and a volunteer. Very good one in both cases. And she created a moon orbit model on codeopen.io with a size scale where 100 kilometers is a pixel and where time scale 1 day is 1 second to demonstrate exactly what's going on. So as the Earth turns around once, the moon has traveled a little, and so on. Let me try to bring her name onto the screen. Oops. Is there a way to have both Virginia's name and the... Yes. Okay. And voila. I mean, really, really well done. Thank you, everybody. I'm just, you know, this is the high frequency. This is the highest frequency of humanity right here. When you get inspired and you're able through some skill and creativity to manifest that. Really, this doesn't get better than that, Virginia. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm just so touched. All right. So let's talk about the volunteer applications. If you are been following, you know that we are opening volunteer applications today for 1 million women to tech. At the moment, we're looking at receiving applications for 7 different groups, and we asked you that you get familiar with the 24 assets framework to do so. In the end, we would love to have, let me just change my video here, 24 assets framework. We have given you a couple of links how to get this for free. You can get the audiobook for free if you've never used Audible before, and it's also part of Kindle Unlimited on Amazon. So if you haven't used Kindle Unlimited, I believe the first month, the trial month, is free. And so that way you could read it for free, or you can just get the book like I did, or like some of the volunteers did it. We will be using this until we reach the mission, to be honest. And I have the feeling that our understanding together as a group will really deepen. The point is that no single human, including myself, should be a bottleneck in the organization. If we're really serious about achieving the mission of providing free coding education to 1 million women by 2020, then we need to make sure that everything in the organization can pass the 8-week test. And the 8-week test is if that person disappeared for 8 weeks, would everything else be able to continue or not? And so that's why we are aiming to create 24 assets in the organization that are broken down into 7 groups. This way we can ensure that there is no single point of failure, so to speak, in technology terms. So I kind of want to hide the URL from you because I'm not ready to announce it. Let me just see how I could do this quickly. Lovely. Okay, so is there anybody here on this call who is thinking of applying for the Group 1, the IP Assets section? Because if yes, I would invite you in Discord to privately connect with me so we can go through the application flow once and make sure that, you know, if there's any problems, we can fix it before we open it. I'd like to open this up today as we announced, and the application window will be open from the 20th of August to the 27th. maybe I should talk about the benefits of volunteering. Well, first of all, I think these fall into two different buckets. One is what it will do for others and what it will do for you. So what it will do for others is the most meaningful part. Of course, you can be, a small cog in somewhere in a very big organization where you're perhaps just a number, or you can be part of something that we're building together. This will be very entrepreneurial for the next, I would say, about 3 years. And so those early volunteers really will set the tone for the remainder of the organization. It's also, I believe, at least in my experience, it's the first all-woman technology organization I've ever been in. And with the volunteers, we enjoy it so much. It's such a different dynamic. I can almost not even explain to you. And to be able to show the world that it is possible, that women and all-women leadership can create hugely scalable and solid organizations, I think is very meaningful. And number 3 is the mission itself. If we can provide free coding education to 1 million women by 2020, it is my wish and my blessing that there will be many women, many families, many children, maybe many unborn children who can be uplifted economically. And if they're uplifted economically, then we can close the gender gap. So that's the external. What it will do for you personally is, well, first of all, you will receive an extra gold membership. If you already have one, then we will give you one to give away or gift away to somebody that you really care about. This also applies to some VIPers who offer to help. It's the minimum that we can offer to you. So this is the very sort of immediate and tangible one. The second one is that you get work experience. So many times it's a little bit hard to break, not a little bit, it's the hardest thing to break into technology because technology employers want experience and you can't get the experience without work experience. So to overcome this greatest hurdle of getting the first experience, all of the roles have, of course, specific skill sets such as accounting, legal, marketing. However, all of the roles will be highly technical. Why? Because we are a technology organization teaching technology through technology. And so you will be able to put this down as your first, if it is the first, true work experience. If you know, Free Code Camp actually is based on this model where you go in, take some coding courses, and then you work with a nonprofit to get work experience. This is perhaps the greatest benefit. Also, being able to work in a remote, global environment and work with other cultures together, it shows that you are, again, you can demonstrate that you can work in a remote environment, which is my hope will be very beneficial to you if you're looking for flexible and remote work. There are some other benefits that we cannot promise, but I wanted to let you know that it's always those who work the closest with me who will get, of course, first access to anything that could benefit them. So anytime, any kind of paid work opportunities come up, it will be yourselves who are first offered a chance and so on. But I can't make any promises. It's just that I hope that the intention is clear that we want to benefit you as much or more than you're benefiting. And finally, if I may say, there is one more huge benefit to yourself. If you ever decide to build your own business, and I hope many of you will, and I would like to invest in all of you who do because you're all amazing, then going through this process of building something from 0 to 1 million active users is the best, and it's much better than any MBA you could get because it's the real world education. And then you can take this know-how and best practice and build your own. And so it's my hope that all of you who have either philanthropic ambitions or you have entrepreneurial ambitions will join us on this amazing journey. Okay. There's a very good question from Rox. If somebody is undecided, could feasibly see themselves in more than one group? Should they wait or apply for more than one, or how would you suggest that be handled? That's a great question, Rox. I would say, because there are 7 groups, for now, please just do one application. Pick the one that you're perhaps the most interested in. However, down here, let me. Oh no! What did I do? Sorry. Okay, this is tricky. This is tricky. Let me just move the. 1 second. Ha! I think that will work. Oh no, still showing. I guess that's good. Okay, so when you're applying, what you could do is in the passion letter section here, where you describe your answer to one of the rapid action items, maybe please indicate what other groups you would be interested or capable working in. So I think one application would be good, and this is a well, you could write more than that, but we're just asking to fill out this section. Here you could indicate the other groups. It's a very, very valid question. Thank you. Anybody else? Hi, Tikvisa. Akasha says, I wish my day would be 36 hours long and I would apply. I agree with you. I must also say, can I just share this with all of you, that we had a couple of volunteers who, through their volunteering, have grown their self-esteem and confidence so much that they actually landed their first paid jobs. In fact, one of them is starting her own consulting company now based on the work that she did for 1 Million Women to Tech, using it as a case study. And I'm just so pleased to see that. So, so there, of course, there is that benefit as well. Is there anybody who would be willing to help me test out the application flow? Well, I'll do that. Let's jump onto the last section of the announcements, which is the GitHub Classroom. So the first GitHub Classroom assignment is now, I'm very happy to tell you, is we are testing it and it's up and ready. We're testing it just with week 1. Each week needs to be a separate assignment because the way GitHub is set up. And so I would like to, again, request mentors and a few gold members / volunteers to help us to try this out until we have a fixed methodology. In order to help that, I started creating a code review sample, and I would like to go through that briefly so that it's clear to everybody what we're trying to do. In terms of the format, there's many ways to do this, so this is just one option. I think it would be good for all of us to have a standard variation with optional sections. Not all of them are applicable, so you can tailor it depending on what's applicable. What is important, please always start with praise. Always start with positive feedback, such as great job, or you have come so far, well done. And then please add something that you notice the student did really well. I've noticed on Discord many of the mentors are fabulous at this. Really, really a huge round of applause. Here's a general grading rubric. This is more, actually I did some research and we discussed it with several people whether it's meaningful to give grades or not. And the truth is, yes, grades make people feel good in some ways, in the sense that you have some certainty. But they are so artificial in that sense. Maybe what we could do is each problem could have a certain number of points, and if you get to the end solution, you can get those points. Yes, that we can do. But more than giving a grade, what matters is that we tell you what it is that you did really well and what it is that you could improve upon. and actually see improvement points, that the direct feedback that is related to you, that's more valuable. So we decided to break it down into effort and solution. Effort is how hard you tried or how quickly you submitted. Actually, it doesn't matter how quickly you submitted, whether you attempted all of them and you managed to follow the workflow and so on. The solution is the actual result, the code that you submit. We decided to have just 3 stages. Good and outstanding are both passing grades. Yeah, and the needs improvement means we won't give you just the certificate yet, but it's okay because you can resubmit. That's not a problem. Needs improvement just means it needs improvement. You can redo it, resubmit until it passes. It's fine. Instead of saying, okay, needs improvement, but how, we're going to give you that feedback later. So the first section is code formatting. Then architecture, coding best practices, non-functional requirements, and OOAD or solid principles if they're applicable. This will not be applicable to beginners, or even the non-functional requirements are very few. It's important, I think, that to give long comments. In the comment section, you can give lots of bravos. Bravos are things that the student did really well. If you notice that they did something that is maybe you haven't thought of as a mentor, good exception handling, good testing, maybe a good discussion of a nuanced point, if they're funny, anything that you can do, please highlight as bravos. Suggestions are those things that can be improved. Okay, they might be sometimes a bit personal or subjective from the mentor's perspective, because we all have our favorite coding styles. But if you did see that there is something algorithmically that could be improved, or maybe they forgot to handle some edge cases, then this is where you can make it in the suggestions. Also, if the code does not meet passing grade and needs improvement, then this would be a good place to explain where those minimum required changes are in order to make it pass. Grade, I left grade in here, but to be honest, I only want to give A's. So until you get an A, you're not going to get a grade. And the level is, that will depend on each week, because each week has a different level. So for example, week 1 is a beginner course. So no matter how well you do in it, you will get a beginner certificate. Week 4, on the other hand, Introduction to AI is an advanced course. So whether you're intermediate or advanced, doesn't matter. If you pass, you'll get a advanced level. And then I wanted to be a bit more specific, so below there you will see a long list of sources, but we wanted to give you some ideas for discussion points about bravos and suggestions. So for example, is the language style enforced everywhere? Are left alignments and margins proper? Naming and coding conventions, does it fit into the standard screen? And is commented line removed? Architecture. Does it have a good architecture? Is separation of concerns followed? Is it split into multiple layers if there are layers? Is it split into respective files, or is it all in line? You want them separated. Is the code sync with existing patterns if there are coding patterns, design patterns? This will be more interesting in the building phase or in the advanced section. Coding best practices. Okay, this is important. No hard coding. Grouping similar values. Comments. It's important to do, this is again for the beginners, I think it's acceptable to let them comment on what they are doing. As we look into the intermediate and advanced courses, we don't want them to say what they're doing, because that's obviously there in the code. Instead, we want to know why they're doing it. Avoiding multiple if-else blocks, so simplification, using framework features if possible, using early exits. I have some examples below, I'll show you, and to return booleans if possible, instead of if true then do this, if else then do that. Non-functional requirements. These are discussion points. You don't have to comment on everything, but if you notice something, I wanted to aid the reviewers, because I received some feedback on, there are some very advanced coders in the program, Christine, I'm thinking about you, who have been asking for code reviews, and so I wanted to give you a framework to really dig and have a higher level discussion. Maintainability has, let's say, there's many ways to break this down, so you can choose other versions. I just wanted to give you one sample. Readability, testability, debuggability, configurability. Reusability is the don't repeat yourself principle. This also applies most of the time to beginners, so I highlighted it with bold. Components, using generic functions, and writing shy code. Shy code means trying to decouple objects and keep scope as small as possible. And there's a whole article below here in the resources. Reliability, exception handling, cleanup. Oh, this is missing. I think this should be a separate one. Extensibility, security, performance, scalability, usability, and object-oriented design principles. SRS, open-close principle, list of interface segregation, dependency injection. If you would like to know more about this, all in the resources are explained. Please always end with praise again. So we do the hamburger method. You know, you start with the padding on both sides, and then you give the meat in the middle. Like in the opening, you want to give encouragement and appreciation. For example, you've come so far, well done, great work, bravo, impressive, great sense of humor. You can see, I hope it's okay that I share. I haven't pushed this up yet, so Christina, you can stop me. But I have a couple of examples of how I gave feedback. So for the resources, if you wanted to take a look under the checklist, single responsibility principle and the list of suitability principle, you can read up on that. I also wanted to give one piece of advice to those who are receiving a code review. So if you've never received a code review before, I think you will love it. I really like this picture. Ideally, it should be a learning exercise and growth exercise. In good, what I call good cultures, you would be doing code reviews regularly, and no matter who, everybody's code gets reviewed, even the boss and the managers, because what you want to do is catch defects and find improvements. And if there is an improvement culture, then this is a great opportunity. I'm afraid there are groups and companies where code reviews is not part of the culture. This is something, when you are interviewing, you might want to ask how often and in what way do they do code reviews to each other. I think the more mature and adult-to-adult interaction is in an environment, the more code reviews there are, because people are not just willing to take on feedback, but excited about it and excited to learn. And to close up, of course, we cannot close the code reviews without looking at XKCD. So please enjoy the cartoons here about code quality. So I will not comment. I'll let you enjoy. And make sure when you're reading XKCD, if you mouse over it, there is always an alternative text under the mouse, which is called the alt text, which is also quite funny. And finally, code quality 3. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. That's it from me. I'll see you as usual at 10 a.m. for the class for Dear Gold and VIP members. We will post a replay in the afternoon. Then at 11 a.m. for the live Q&A, which is just for Gold and VIP members. We don't repost this publicly. It's just for the Gold and VIP members receive the replay and through the membership panel. If you're new, please make sure that you watch the onboarding webinar inside the member portal or on YouTube, and also go under courses to see either to start from beginning, or you can join us today if the level is right for you. I think that's it from me. And after we've tested the volunteer flow this afternoon, that will be my priority, is I will open the applications and make announcements. So thank you, everybody. Bye. This was Ilona Budapesti, Chief Storyteller of 1 Million Women to Tech, broadcasting to you live from Oxford, UK.